he sounds like.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this fine radio program, podcast and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We're on show number 289, ladies and gentlemen. That means we are...
That is like 7/8 of the way.
To 300.
To 300, yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Welcome to the show. We've got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot going on, including, finally, good news.
What?
In the world of cigar legislation.
I don't even understand what good news
I
and
know.
cigar
It's been so
legislation.
long since we've had any good news.
How do you put those two things together?
I know. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today. Plus, today on show number 289, as we discuss craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, we're going to talk about summer whiskey cocktails and 10 things that every cigar smoker should know.
All right. Right now.
Right now, yes. And we have a lot going on. We do want to say thanks to our special guest. We were off last week for 4th of July week. We do want to say thanks to our guest the week before, Michael Duckworth with True Anomaly Brewing.
He's always so fun.
Always a lot of fun to have on. And I got to tell you, I'm just a fan of their beers.
Absolutely.
I really am. They just, not that I'm not normally a fan of beers, but I'm even more a fan of their beers than a lot of places. They just know how to get exciting, new, interesting things on their menu, and it's really, really awesome.
And they're not all IPAs,
right? And speaking of, by the way, exciting new things on their menu, one of the things we're going to be sampling today is from a very creative brewery in our area, Ingenious Brewing.
Oh man, those guys
out of
are
Humboldt.
crazy.
Now they do a lot of IPAs, which I love, but today we'll be trying their Mosaic Pils. It's a classic American lagered Pilsner.
Okay, I can't wait to see what they do with a classic style.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
They're so far out there.
Well, and they have a tendency to be, champions of the hops.
You mentioned earlier too, like just a minute ago, that they tend to do a lot of IPAs.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's not the only thing they do.
They do milkshake IPAs.
Yeah, they do crazy IPAs.
All kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, and everything they do is very creative. But then see, they also have porters and stouts that are just outrageously good.
Some of their stouts they're world class on some of their stouts, especially. Unbelievable.
So excited about trying their Pilsner, and it is a classic American lagered Pilsner. That's how they describe it. So we'll be looking forward to that. That is the Mosaic Pils.
Love it.
Also, you were talking about places that do a lot of IPAs. From Firestone Walker Brewing, Paso, Robles, California, we'll be trying their Hopnosis IPA. Hopnosis. So we look forward to that.
Nice little play on words.
And then from the very creative folks in MacAlester, Oklahoma, at Prairie Artisan Ales.
They're a lot of fun, too.
We're going to be trying their double vanilla noir. It's a barrel-aged stout, and it's got 2 different kinds of vanilla in it. It looks very, very interesting. So
it's vanilla and vanilla.
Yeah, I think
aged.
I'm very excited about trying this. It is bourbon barrel aged. It's gonna be great. So, and speaking of barrel aged, we'll be trying out a rum on the show today. It's Worthy Parks Single Estate Reserve Jamaican rum from Jamaica, and that happens to be spinning around right now on Mr. Twirlygig. And I got to tell you, I'm not familiar with Worthy Park.
That rum looks like scotch.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Like the whole presentation of the bottle and everything.
Right, the way the label looks. And
the way the plastic has been torn off
and
the neck has been clear. I mean, what?
Listen, I don't know if you remember this, but last show we did, we had that rabbit hole.
That is true. That
bourbon.
rabbit hole was great.
Yeah. Michael Duckworth got to take that bottle home.
Yes,
He
that
was very
rabbit hole
excited.
was fantastic.
He left us a lot of beer, so it was a good trade. But he really enjoyed it, but it was a a little dangerous because we had not cleared the plastic off of the top of the bottle.
I was very careful
or cleared the neck. Well, and I'm glad that you were able to be,
There was a couple drips
on
the tabletop here, though. I have to say.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that, or I probably would have come over and licked them up because
I'm not sure if that was before or after I started drinking.
Yeah, they were that good. So we got lots of good stuff to try and taste. I got great news in cigar legislation to tell you about. 10 things every cigar smoker should know. We got cigars to watch for. We got so just want to talk about this before we go any further. But I will mention that we will have drinking news. And our drinking news teaser headline for today is This in-flight entertainment really sucks. Oh, I like that. That was a nice little.
It's called a trill.
A nice little trill on the end of that. I like that. In addition to all of that, we're going to be. I've been thinking about. We talked about this on the last show, and it just has rocked me to the core that Stone Brewing has sold out.
Disappointing.
It is, and it's not. And
I'm
again,
not disappointed for them because make your money. Mm-hmm. I'm just disappointed for the idea of it.
Well, I'm totally. And I've said this on the show before. I truly am a capitalist. I believe in, the ability of people in this country and others to be able to build something up and then sell it and take the money and go do something else or retire or whatever. Go live on an island, whatever they want to do. I'm all in support of that. I really am. The thing that stings about Stone, though, is they were so highly critical of every other brewery that sold out. And it became this independent thing was their mantra. Yep. It was what they were all about.
Everything has a price.
Everything has a price. And I get it. I'm sure, I'm sure I have a price too. I think everything and everybody does. But the reality is I'm trying to figure out how I feel about their beer now, right? Because we don't have any reason to assume their beer's not going to continue to be as good or be as innovative or be as interesting. But I'm just not as excited about it anymore. I admit it, And we've seen what happened to some breweries that have been bought, and they still make good beer. But it just seems like some of the passion is gone.
Some of it's changing. I don't know, and I'm not here just to pick on Carbach a little bit. But Carbach, Love Street, I feel like is changing. Love Street doesn't taste the same to me. Now it could be me. We all have different palates, and our palates evolve. But I feel like when I grab a Love Street nowadays, it's not the same.
I know I was a fan of their Big and Bright IPA.
Yeah.
And while I will tell you that I think Hopadillo still tastes the same as it always has, Big and Bright, which I'm not even sure if they make anymore, but I could tell when that one changed. Yeah. It just wasn't as citrusy. It wasn't as.
And they've even come out with a few. Remember the Coastal Conservation Ale was quite good.
Yeah, I mean, that's back out. I think. For the summer.
That was good, and that'd be something I'd probably pick up and try. My thought when I'm going to buy beer, and this will go down to Stone as well, is when you're owned by a bigger conglomerate like that, there are lots of other breweries that can use my money much more than they need it. Right. And Stone, it's going to make me sad because I do like
because before
Stone.
When you bought Stone, you were supporting those guys.
Yes,
the guys that
and
started
it made
that
me
brewery.
Want to buy Stone even that much more, even though the beer is that good.
During the pandemic, when you were hearing all of the stuff about how some breweries might not make it. I remember I decided I'm going to go online. I'm just going to order some merch. I looked around at several different breweries and wound up ordering a T-shirt. And I admit it's just one T-shirt. It's not going to help them that much. But that was something I did, and it wound up being a Stone T-shirt that I ordered. And the whole thing was I'm glad I'm at least doing some little thing to help an independent brewer. I would not be buying a Sapporo T-shirt. I'm not worried about them not making it through the tough economic time or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I was supporting the small independent brewer.
Do you still have that Stone T-shirt?
I do.
Because there are places in town where you can get it silk screened. And if it has the Stone logo on it, you could have the sold out logo.
Oh, put over the top of it?
Put right over the top of that,
That's not a bad
I think.
idea.
That'd be pretty amazing.
That'd be kind of a cool
Because now then you could wear it again.
Well, I've decided just personally, and this decision is just for me. I'm not advocating that everybody do it, but I've decided that my response to Stone selling is I'm gonna boycott their beers for 6 months because I don't want to just continue on as if everything's the same. And I buy Stone's beers on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll give any of the money that I would have spent with Stone. I'm going to spend with an independent.
Yeah.
Brewer for 6 months. So I'm not going to boycott him forever, just like I don't boycott Carbach. But I don't go out of my way to give Anheuser-Busch money either.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a thing like I'll drink Carbach. I'll drink those beers that are available. Like if you're at a venue where they have the usual suspects, and then they have Carbach. I'll generally drink Carbach. If they have Shiner, I'll go Shiner.
Yep. If they have St. Arnold, you go St. Arnold.
Yeah, I generally want to. I just want to put my money, and they're all pretty good beers. Shiner, I generally like better than the Carbach beers, which, that's a no-brainer for me. And then Sam Adams, because they always have the Boston Lager, which is a good beer.
It's a great beer. I like that beer a lot.
I do too. I do too. And depending on my mood, I may or may not like it as much as I would like something else. But that's something I would buy because them.
Yeah, exactly. And even though they are one of the bigger craft breweries,
Yes.
they are still an independently owned.
Hey, baby,
craft
you
brewery.
get props for being one of the earliest and pushing. Like, they were one of
They did more to promote craft beer.
Craft beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his commercials were brilliant.
They really were.
The whole smelling the hops and really kind of
Right.
taking beer to another level. Not just
Right. I remember my favorite commercial that they did. He was trying to explain why you need. This was in a commercial. Why you need a good head of foam on your beer, and he actually does. He puts the bottle cap on top of it,
floats it on the foam.
Yeah, and he said if the head of your beer is like it's supposed to be, the bottle cap will float like a happy little boat. And it felt like Mr. Rogers was teaching me about beer. You know what I mean? I kind of dug it. But anyway.
So I mean, you got to give them props for just being that company, and their beers are good. They're not my favorite beers out there, but they're good.
Well, and so I'm going to take a 6-month break from Stone.
A hiatus,
Yes. And then let's see what their beers taste like by the time I come back.
Right.
And if they're still good, then I'll still buy. I mean, I still will occasionally buy, Wicked Weed or some of the other breweries that have been purchased that make a good beer. So I don't know. I feel like I don't go out of my way to purchase Carbach because I know I'll be in situations where that'll be my best option, and that's what I'll choose.
I did make that mistake with Rolling Rock when it sold.
Oh, yeah.
That's a mistake.
I used to like Rolling Rock.
Rolling Rock used to be a delicious beer.
It's terrible now.
And now it is, I don't know what they did to it, but it ain't good.
They screwed it up, my friend. It's exactly what they did. So anyway, a lot to talk about today, but that's my thoughts. I've been really puzzling over this ever since I heard the news. How do I want to react to this? Do I want to just go on as if nothing happened? Do I want to cut them out of my beer rotation altogether?
Do we need to make a letter to Stone?
It's not going to matter.
No, but it'd be fun to do.
It might be fun to do. Maybe we'll do
a
that.
letter to Stone, and I'll come up with some background music.
Okay,
to make it sound
I'll work on that for next week's show.
All right,
next week's show. Speaking of next week, by the way, Sean Anger from Fox and Seeker,
love that guy,
who was scheduled to be on with us and then had to reschedule. Because he's got their bourbons out.
Yes.
So we're really excited to be tasting that next week.
I like whiskey.
Yeah, I like whiskey, and whiskey likes me. Also on today's show, beer made from toilet water has won admirers in Singapore. You can't make this stuff up. You just
is this a new drinking news story? Do we need
I almost thought
save that?
It might even be better than the drinking news story today.
Toilet wine,
toilet water. So we'll see what we get to. So, been an interesting week for me, and I would guess you have had the opportunity at some point to smoke something interesting yourself.
I actually got around to Casa de Monte Cristo this morning. I haven't been there in a while. And
how are the boys doing there?
They're doing great.
Steve's
doing great. Yeah. Steve's doing great. We sat and chatted a little bit, and it was really nice. I was looking around. There's not a whole lot new coming out right now.
Right, because the trade shows and all are coming up, so you'll see new stuff coming out for those.
It's going to pop up soon, so there's not a lot moving right now. But I poked around the Humidor just looking for some stuff that I hadn't had as of yet, because when you're 280 episodes in, that's 280 different cigars that I've smoked. There's a lot of cigars out there, and some of the cigars that we've reviewed over the years don't even exist anymore.
That's true.
Quite a few of them, actually. But it's always fun to look for new stuff, and I'm always looking for a new flavor, a new something. And of course I have my old standbys, but I went in and I bought a Punch. I don't usually buy Punch. Punch makes good cigars.
They certainly do.
It's not that I don't look at Punch cigars. It's just a lot of times I see other stuff, and Punch is one of those ubiquitous brands that kind of flies under my radar sometimes, just due to its ubiquity.
Ooh.
I think that's a good word.
I
right?
like that is a good word.
So I picked up their 180th anniversary, or anniversario, as they would say. This is a double Corona. It's a pretty good sized cigar.
Good-sized cigar, yeah.
I don't know where it tips the scales from being a double Corona to a Churchill, but it's a 7 1/4 inch long by 54 ring gauge. So it's a pretty good sized cigar. Has a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, Connecticut broadleaf binder, and the filler is a mix of Dominican, Nicaraguan, and Honduran tobaccos. The appearance on this cigar: dark chocolate, veiny, somewhat rustic. It had the classic punch band on it, and then it had a band underneath that says 180 on it. Very firm overall, a little rough to the touch, kind of a leathery feel, a little bit oily as well. The pre-light sniff on this: rich earth and floral. I didn't get a lot on the pre-light sniff. It smelled nice, but rich earth. And floral. Why did I put floral twice? Floral. Hint of
Apparently
coffee.
it was quite floral.
It was apparently floral. A hint of coffee and mocha at the foot of the cigar. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip. It had an effortless draw, sweet, creamy mocha, rich earth, coffee, and a little bit of leather kind of taste on the lips. It was really nice. The initial light on this: big, spicy, sweet smoke, toasty, nutty, and spicy earth with a powdered sugar kind of sweetness on top of it. Lingering bitter chocolate and coffee on the aftertaste, complemented by a leather tang on the lips. The retrohale was cayenne and sweet toast. This is interesting because, like, if you like sweet and spicy, this is a cigar for
Interesting,
you.
yeah. Sweet and spicy can be good.
Sweet and spicy was abundant on this. You'll hear me repeating both of those things. The first third of this: sweet toast and creamy coffee with rich earth and a distinctive peanut note began the journey. Spicy cayenne and white pepper moved parallel, yet just behind to create a level of complexity this medium strength offering from punch. Underlying dark fruitiness and leather. The retrohale on this was spicy sweet toast and creamy coffee, solid ash, perfect burn. You'll see that in the pictures.
Nice.
The second third of this: sweet, creamy coffee and toast continues to champion the palate, while underlying peanut, cayenne, dark fruit, and earth create a subplot. Leather and bitter chocolate with a hint of citrus offer a slight twist to the tail. Retrohale is chicory coffee, bitter chocolate, toast, and a kiss of white pepper, solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of the cigar: cedar moves into the scene, making me wonder if it was there the whole time without me noticing. It's kind of one of those things where it snuck in, and I was like, "Hey,
if it's
you're very cedary."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it was probably there. I just had so many other things going on that I didn't see it.
Right.
But yeah, it was very cedary at this point. Spicy notes become a little less cayenne and a little more cinnamon and sweet chicory coffee. Chicory is one of those flavors that if you've never had chicory coffee, then you probably have no idea what chicory tastes like.
Yeah, it's hard to describe.
It's a very hard to describe, but it's also very distinctive. Like, once you know it, you know it, you know.
It's what the coffee is like in New Orleans.
Yes.
Coffee,
Any coffee you get, if you've ever had coffee in New Orleans, it probably had chicory in it.
Exactly.
Good luck finding coffee without it. Leather and dark fruit reveal their part of the story here, becoming major characters. Toast, leather, bitter chocolate, and earth are still prominent with pervasive sweetness throughout. Retrohale is cedar, cinnamon, nutty, slightly spicy, solid ash, perfect burn. Smoke time. Smoke time on this: an hour and a half.
Wow.
Easily.
Wow.
An hour and a half on this cigar. This thing burned so well, so fantastically, and burned for an hour and a half. It's a good thing I got there early, because I would have been ditching the cigar if I got there regular time.
No kidding.
Right?
I mean, really.
The price versus quality quotient on this. This is a $15 cigar. That's expensive. It's also a big cigar, and it smokes for an hour and a half.
Right.
This
helps. Yeah.
This got a solid 5. Okay,
Nice.
It's $15
For a $15 cigar. That's
this
saying
is
quite
exactly a
Absolutely
$15
is.
experience right
That's
here.
That's a big deal.
Strength wise, medium. overall, but don't be afraid of it if you like a lighter cigar, but you don't mind a little bit of spice going on. This would be a cigar I'd recommend for you if you want something special occasion or really nice.
And this is which punch is this again?
This is the
name of the cigar?
180th anniversary.
180th anniversary. So you're seeing a lot of the general cigar brands coming out with these anniversary at 100 years or more anniversary cigars. A. Chapman did, and I think Monte Cristo did.
Yeah, they did. So they're 135.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting smokes coming out there. You're beginning to see things really diversify with some of the more old and traditional cigar brands, if you think about it, and you're seeing a lot of new things beginning to hit the market from the older names.
Right,
and it's just kind of an interesting thing to watch. We're going to take a quick break, and I will tell you about the cigar that I smoked this week. But I went back to something that's been out for quite some time, and something that I had.
Cruz went retro.
I went retro. I had moved a little bit away from this brand, and I'll talk about that, how I came back in and why it was a good idea. It's Smoking and Toasting. You are with us for show number 289. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 289. Yes, they are. We're talking today about summer whiskey cocktails and 10 things every cigar smoker should know. Plus, big news coming down, legal news about cigar smoking and the cigar industry. And for once, it's good. So we'll get to that in a few moments. First of all, though, I want to tell you about the cigar that I smoked this week. And I have to start by saying thank you to our producer in the sky, Adam Andrus, and his lovely wife, Brianna, for the cigar that I smoked on the show today. I got a nice little 5-pack of these from them for Father's Day, which was just absolutely cool. So the cigar is the CAO Brazilia Gold.
Gold. I haven't had a CAO Brazilia in probably 10 years.
Yeah, it's one of those cigars that I see it every time I'm in the humidor. I have smoked them before, and I have always liked it when I smoked it, but I had not smoked it in years, and I like that the Robusto size is called Gold because that's what they yell at the soccer matches. And I don't know if you've ever watched a soccer match with people from Brazil, but it's off the chain because you think people in in the United States get excited about our football teams or basketball teams or whatever. No, we got nothing on the Brazilians. They're insane. They're out of their mind. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. So CAO's Brazilia Gold, which is the Robusto, is something. Let me back up here. I became a fan of CAO cigars when I met Tim Osgener, who, with his father Kano, were the O in CAO cigars.
Oh.
I met Tim at a big smoke in New York City back in the 90s. I got to talk to him. I just loved he was a young guy at that time, about my age, because at that time I was a young guy. And he just had this passion for cigars. He was so much fun to talk to. And I just loved everything about our conversation. And after meeting him, I started exploring everything in their lineup. I already liked their cigars, but I really became a fan. In 2006, the Osgeners sold CAO to Scandinavian Tobacco Group. And while it didn't exactly fall off a quality cliff like what happened at Camacho, there was a bit of a slump in quality, enough to send me chasing after other brands to try and to smoke other things. Now, around the time of the CAO Flathead series, which is around the time that this show started.
Right, that would have been 5 years ago-ish.
Yeah. In fact, I think the first time we did a show on location, I think I smoked one of those for the first time.
That was at Friendly Fire Cigars.
Yeah, and that was a great and fun live show. But anyway, it was around the time that those came out that I started to get drawn back into the brand. And some of those cigars, the Flathead series, were very good. And it seemed like STG had finally gotten the brand back on track. So now I'm going back to try one of the CAOs that I liked from before, but haven't smoked in a long time. So the CAO Gold Robusto. And by the way, just for what it's worth, the Osgeners, the father, Kano, passed away several years ago.
Oh, wow.
Tim, who was his son, the one that I got to meet, and I liked him so much, has just announced that he's getting back into the cigar business.
Oh, wow.
And so I'll have a report on that a little bit later in the show. But I'm just excited because he had such a when you talk to Rocky Patel, you can just tell he had such a passion for this. That's the way Tim Osgener was. He was just absolutely all about it. I was surprised, actually, that they sold, but I get it. Anyway, the Gold Robusto is a 5x56 chunky cigar with a dark, oily Brazilian wrapper, binder and filler from Nicaragua, and it's all handcrafted in Honduras. The pre-light sniff gave off notes of hay and earth, and the cold draw added a nutty flavor to that. I used a punch and lit her up and readied myself for what I was sure was going to be a Nicaraguan pepper blast, which I seem to recall being promised a song about, but much like the mysterious missing episode of the show, I've yet to hear it. So, Noted. Okay. Anyway, I did get some pepper on the palate, but it wasn't overwhelming. It really wasn't a Nicaraguan pepper blast. And there was also a note of bitter chocolate and a kind of an earthy quality. Those maintained throughout the first third of the Brazilia with a very nice sort of Maduro sweetness tying it all together. By the second third, the cigar had developed a very nice vibe of toasted nuttiness, along with still the chocolate and the sweetness of the Maduro tobacco, and a kind of creaminess also developed that complemented these flavors really quite nicely. Notes of cedar in the final third, and some of the flavors from earlier in the cigar took a back seat to the cedar and the Maduro sweetness. Overall, very nice complexity, and a smoke that lasted over an hour, which is a little longer than I was expecting, given that it's a Robusto size. Anytime a Robusto goes over an hour, you got to go, okay.
That's a slow-smoking cigar.
That's a slow-smoking cigar, exactly. I was very impressed with the Brazilia's construction. Brazilian wrappers are very oily, which I love, but that oiliness can sometimes contribute to a little bit of an inconsistent burn, as parts of the wrapper leaf may be oilier than others, so they burn at a little different rate, a slower rate. While the burn wasn't razor straight, it definitely didn't give me any problems. And I finally dropped off the very tight ash at just under the halfway point of the cigar. You can see that in the picture. It wasn't quite halfway, but it was real close. And even for a Robusto, that's pretty impressive. The CAO Brazilia Gold Robusto was nicely complex, very enjoyable. Started out as what I would call a medium-bodied smoke. By the end, it kind of cranked itself all the way up to,
I remember
to
being
full
pretty
body.
full, right?
Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't recommend it for beginners, but if you're looking to try a full-bodied cigar, but the La Flor Dominicana chisel or the diesel seem a little bit intimidating to you, this would be a good full-bodied smoke for a first-timer. Yeah. It gets you there gradually, which isn't, such a shock to the system, so to speak. It was I really enjoyed smoking one of these again, and it reminded me that these need to be in a regular rotation for me because they're good. What's really nice about this one is this cigar is not overpriced. So many times today, when you pick up a nice fat Robusto like this one, and it's a major brand, you're talking a cigar they want $12-13 for, and it's a Robusto. This one comes in at right around $8 a stick.
Oh, nice.
And that's just very impressive. I can not only recommend it, but I would give the Brazilia Gold a solid 6 on the price to quality scale, simply because I think it would compete well with any of those Robustos I mentioned that would be closer to $10.
That Brazilia stands out because it's got the
green and yellow
flag,
label, the color of the Brazilian flag. Exactly. Yeah. So big thumbs up for Brazilia. I enjoyed it, and that one will become a regular for me.
CAO's been seeming to make a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not like
that Bones is.
It's
is
not
a
like
good
they
cigar.
fell off like what happened to Camacho, where the cigars got actually. Like, I don't want to smoke those
and
at all. They just got a little. I don't know. For a while, they seemed less interesting, and now they've come back. They've got some newer blends. They've got a 3X blend that I haven't smoked yet, but I'm very interested in. And apparently it's their latest cigar. And I've only seen a picture of it on their website. It looks beautiful.
Nice.
So looking forward to trying that. Speaking of things I'm looking forward to trying, I'm stoked about Ingenious Brewing and this Mosaic pill. So what can
Look at this super classic looking can there.
And so this is what Ingenious. When I think of this brewery, I do not think of a classic brewery. I think of a very futuristic brewery that's always
Right.
pushing the envelope and trying new things. So they clearly are making a statement here about how they want this beer to be perceived. They want you to perceive this as something that's in a very classic style, and that's even what I think it actually says. It's a classic American lagered Pilsner.
It does. It
So
does
what
say that.
does that mean?
And this is supposed to be as classic as it can get, I think. And the can itself makes me like feel like I should have one of the pull tabs that comes
all the way off.
you know?
I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but you're
Right.
100% right. But it does have a very classic looking feel to it, and it's something that
Pale straw.
Yeah, pale straw looks like a good lager. But this is not a style that I know anything about from Ingenious. So that's why I'm so interested to taste this and see if they knock
I
it
don't
out
know
of
if
the
I've
park
ever tried
the way
a
they have with
quote-unquote
IPAs.
classic beer from Ingenious.
Right. It almost
It's
seems
always like way over the top crazy stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, it smells good.
I would say on the nose, though, it does smell very much like a classic Pilsner.
Yeah, it definitely like this is what you think when you think I smell beer.
Mm-hmm. It's got that beer smell. Ooh. Very interesting.
In Ingenious's way, it's not. It doesn't taste like a Pilsner like what you're used to with like
It's not a Stella Artois.
right or what's the other classic Pilsner that I'm thinking of as I'm blanking on it right now, but it's got a little bit of like a malty funk to it that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. It definitely doesn't taste like a Budweiser.
Oh no.
A
No.
malty funk is a good way to put it, and that
It's
is
got a malty funk.
that is
in a
very
great way.
ingenious. But
yes.
but it doesn't it still have just
Has a very
classic kind of feel
well,
to it?
it does, but it has a very German
Yes.
flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it says classic American, but I mean that is a German beer.
Well, the classic American lagers, if you think about
Right, are German
Budweiser
beers.
and Miller, they were German beers, and
So this is very like if you put this down in front of me, I would assume this was just a German beer. So they're going for I guess the early days of Americans making those German styles that were coming out. Somewhere there exists a Venn diagram with hop heads on one side and crispy boys on the other. I don't know what that means.
well, the people who like their beer hoppy on one side, and the people who like it crisp and lagered on the other.
Yeah, I guess so.
Crispy boys.
Crispy boys. Okay. The Mosaic Pills is for those that live smack dab in the middle of this diagram.
Interesting.
It's good beer.
It really is good beer. It's not only thirst quenching, but it's got what did you call it? A malty funk.
Malty-funk.
I like that. A malty funk. It says Pilsner dry
That's
hopped.
Malty, not Multi.
Yeah. Apparently, it's dry hopped with Mosaic hops, which is interesting because I don't know that I've ever. I'm sure it has been, but I don't know that I'm aware of Mosaic being used in a beer other than an IPA. Because it's one of those very kind of aggressive hops.
This would go fantastic with any cigar.
It
by the
really
way.
would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It really would. Because
anything.
the malty funk just gives itself right over
Yeah.
to.
And it is crispy and it's very carbonated, which works with the style.
I'm kind of digging it.
I like Ingenious. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I am too. It's 5% alcohol by volume, and it is. Is this the first Ingenious that we've had in a 12-ounce can as opposed to a taller can?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they always come in a tall boy.
So it's interesting. We've seen this happen with equal parts.
Yeah.
They've gone now from the 16-ounce cans to the 12. We've seen it happen now, at least on this beer, with Ingenious.
Lone Pine.
And then Lone Pine has gone from their very odd-sized bottle. It wasn't a bomber. It was.
Man, Lone Pine just has
yeah.
to do stuff
Yeah.
weird though. Did you notice their 6-pack can holders?
Oh
are
yeah, the
very
6-pack
different from
can holders.
everything
Yeah,
else?
completely different. They look very recycled, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although I think those plastic ones are use a lot of recycled plastic in them as well. But yeah, the Lone Pint ones look very recycled, and I'm starting to see Lone Pint now showing up more and more places. Now,
Yeah,
obviously that's for us here in Texas
Yes.
because they're from Magnolia, Texas, but it's kind of cool to see that happening.
I'd be interested to know, like, what's on the local taps for some of our listeners. Like, what's on the local tap? Put it in the comments. What's on
Yeah.
your local taps?
Right. Where are you and what's on your local taps?
You know, what do you look forward to seeing on your local taps when you walk into any given bar in your area?
I took my wife out to dinner last night. Actually, we went to Liberty Kitchen for our anniversary, and they had Lone Pint Yellow Rose on
Gotta
tap,
love that.
and made me
Gotta
just
love
a happy camper. You know?
Yeah, I love it when I catch the local stuff. Like, you can almost, if you've got a decent bar here in Houston area, you're almost guaranteed to have some St. Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
Some places only have like a seasonal, which is fine. I love the seasonals.
Yeah, their
I
seasons
was
are great.
in a place the other day. They had the summer pills, and that's what I had. Eureka Heights has been showing up a lot of places with their
And Eighth Wonder.
and Eighth Wonder. Yeah, those have all been like, it's really nice to find those.
Yeah, I was ask you a question about this classic American Mosaic Pills. If I hadn't told you all of that about it, and I told you it was someone's Oktoberfest, would you have bought it? I mean, would you have?
It's kind of funky. It's got that funky maltness to it, so I could see.
Because it kind of made me
It's
want to.
very German tasting.
Kind of made me want a pretzel. Is why I'm asking.
Yeah, and it has a lot of that
Yeah.
kind of doughy,
Baking spice.
doughy
sort
kind
vibe.
of, and so I don't know. The question is, like, it's not the right color
Right, that's true.
because usually there's a little bit of red to it when it's a Oktoberfest, but it doesn't have to be. I don't know. Next
Well-
time you'll have to try that on me.
I can't wait any longer to share this news.
Talk to me.
The premium cigar industry is rejoicing as Judge Amit P. Mehta issued his opinion on the lawsuit between the Food and Drug Administration and the three main cigar industry organizations. The judge sided largely in favor of the cigar groups, calling the FDA's move to regulate premium cigars, quote, arbitrary and capricious, end quote, and invited additional briefing from both sides before he issues his final judgment, which will happen after July 26. Many in the cigar industry are hoping that this will lead to final relief from the warning labels and the pre-market review of products and all the other limitations that have hindered their ability to get on with the business of making and marketing homemade cigars to adults. Because these are not made or marketed for under 18.
They're not.
They're not. It's just a fact.
Under 18 just aren't even interested in this.
That's right.
Like, not even.
In the opinion, the judge was quite critical of the FDA in the court battle with Cigar Rights of America. Thank you, Cigar Rights of America.
Yes.
And also the Premium Cigar Association and the Cigar Association of America. In a joint filing, the three groups sued the FDA in early 2021, challenging the rejection of an exemption for premium cigars from FDA oversight, which attempted to place many of the same regulations on premium handmade cigars as on cigarette makers. Judge Mehta picked apart the FDA for its misuse of data. And here's one I love. The agency's statement that all cigars produce toxic smoke is exactly the sort of non-responsive, circular reasoning the court faulted previously. That's a quote from the judge
Wow.
in his decision. So instead of addressing the relevant data before it, the agency resorted to a common refrain to obscure the issue, referring to the FDA's claim that there was no data provided to support the idea that there are different patterns of use among premium cigar smokers, patterns that result in lower health risks. The FDA statement, the judge wrote, was not accurate then, and despite litigation counsel's efforts, it is not accurate now. Reaction in the cigar industry has ranged from exuberant to cautiously optimistic.
In other words, the judge actually said, I call bull.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And it almost restores your faith in a certain part of the American justice system because it just felt like this whole thing was this runaway regulation train that was so interested in checking the box of we protect kids that it didn't care what it rolled over and squashed
Right.
in its trajectory. You know, and it's like I'm so tired of everything being just about checking the boxes. Let's get into what things really are and what they really say. And if there's a real clear and present danger here, then maybe there should be some regulations. But this is so manufactured so that somebody can hold a sign that says, I protected the kids. You know what I mean? Because that's what it is.
Not only that, if you see someone clearly marketing an adult product to kids, like that's a thing, right? And there are nasty people out there that will do this such thing, you know? Then that should be addressed. But also, dang it, government, why don't you let parents parent their kids?
Right.
You know, you don't have to be the parent.
Yeah.
It's not your
Absolutely.
job.
Absolutely.
Parents need to be parents.
So anyway, I am so thrilled that for once logic has prevailed.
Right.
You know, it's a wonderful thing to see, and it's wonderful to be alive at a time when that can actually happen. And I'm totally serious. Totally serious. So, all right, let's take a break. We're going to be back in a minute. I just poured myself a little more of this. I got to say, really kind of liking this beer. I'm really kind of liking it. And I shouldn't be surprised.
It kind of makes you go back, doesn't it?
It kind of does. The Doritos effect is working a little, and
it leaves that crispy dryness on the tongue.
Crispy dry on the tongue, and you crave more of the malty funk.
Mm-hmm.
Malty funk. I think that's what I'm going to name my band.
Malty funk.
The malty funk. We do cool '70s R&B covers,
malty funk,
and disco songs, and
fueled by beer.
And we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting.
Put it on the head.
Welcome back. Smoking and Toasting. Sorry, Ian got me a little Twix, and I forgot how long it takes to chew one of those.
You have to chew it up for a while.
Stays with you for a little while. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, number 289. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're going to get to summer whiskey cocktails and 10 things every cigar smoker should know. We'll also be getting to drinking news, but I wanted to basically, I thought I would share with you, just as we work our way into this segment. Sorry, I literally lost my place here, and that happens to me every once in a while.
While you're doing that, you know what? Why don't
you open up some beer? Yeah.
Open up a beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I know what. I was going to talk to you about cigars to watch for, because there's some pretty interesting things that will be coming
down the pipeline.
You mentioned that there's not a lot that's new right now.
Yeah, it's all saving
that's
up
all
for the
about
trade
to change.
show.
Yeah, and I'm super excited to report to you that my favorite cigar maker is releasing a whole new blend.
Black and mild?
Yes. How did you know? It's the black. It's supposed to, it's like a less.
It's now blended by AJ Fernandez.
Yeah, that's right. It's actually called.
That's not real news. Please don't spread that around.
Yeah, it's actually called brown and
gotcha.
I'm so excited over AJ's new blend that in what could be considered an estate cigar of sorts, AJ Fernandez will soon be releasing the New World Dorado, a cigar line that consists primarily of tobacco from the Dorado farm, which is his farm in Esteli, Nicaragua. According to Fernandez, the soil on this particular farm, because he has several farms, the soil on this particular farm has a golden hue, which is unusual because most of the dirt in Esteli tends to be an ashen shade of dark gray. The golden experience inspired the name. The phrase El Dorado in Spanish means
gold.
The Dorado.
Oh,
and,
you're right.
Yeah, and apparently
you translate better than I do.
Apparently, Dorado does mean golden, so you're right about that as well. The Dorado farm is fairly new for Fernandez. It's only 5 years old, and the New World Dorado brand represents tobacco from its very first harvest. So
nice.
That's kind of exciting. The all Nicaraguan blend is made up of a sun-grown Cuban seed wrapper and a Criollo 98 binder, both from the Dorado farm. And while some of the tobacco in the filler is from two other fields, one in Condega and a different farm in Esteli, the rest of the filler blend also incorporates leaf from the Dorado plantation. So not a Dorado Puro, but almost.
All right.
And anyway, all sizes will be box pressed and come in 10-count boxes, and prices will range from $11 to $12.80 per cigar.
Okay, I would definitely looking out for that.
And you might want to look out for this one, too. EP Carrillo is also releasing something new. The newest smoke from Ernesto Perez Carrillo will be quite different from all the others he's made, as it's a cigar brand meant to be rolled by other factories, not his own.
Oh.
The EP Carrillo Allegiance is a cigar bearing the Carrillo name that will be produced in Nicaragua by Oliva Cigar Company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Future versions of the cigar are actually going to be made in other factories as well.
Well, wait a second. So EPC, love EPC,
Right.
is going to be made by Oliva Cigar
Yeah,
Factory.
what's not to like?
Love it.
This is an ode, they say, to the deep roots we have in the industry and the friendship and the bonds we've made over the years and how this extends to the EP Carrillo lines, Ernesto said. He is a two-time winner of Cigar Aficionado's Cigar of the Year Award, as well as a member of Cigar Aficionado's Hall of Fame, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, nice.
Oliva Cigars consistently grows excellent tobacco, he said, and our friendship with their team makes it an easy choice to partner with them for the Allegiance. So this is going to be kind of cool watching not only this iteration, but then when they go and do another version with another roller, another factory. So those are a couple of things to watch out for. Also, one more, Fuente and Padron are doing a joint cigar project, and they're unveiling it at the PCA show.
Ooh.
So we don't know too much about it yet, but Fuente and Padron.
That sounds
could be very interesting. Yeah.
Those are two powerhouses in the industry
cool stuff.
there.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of interesting teamwork and people collaborating. It's almost like the cigar industry is taking its cue from hip-hop. It's all collaborations now, you know?
So every cigar you buy is going to be, this cigar was made by, and then a list of 17 names.
Yeah, it's like, it'll be like Padron featuring Fuente and Oliva and Rocky Patel. You know? 'Cause that's how they do it in the record
Don't forget
world,
the
right?
janitor was walking through at that time. His name gets on the credits too.
Exactly. All right, so you have poured for us another green can of beer. This one from Firestone Walker clocks in at 6.7 ABV. It is their Hopnosis, and I love. By the way, I should buy a shirt from Firestone Walker because I love their slogan, "Beer Before Glory."
Beer Before Glory.
That's so good. But Hopnosis, they do a lot of experimental IPAs.
There is no information on this can. Like it just
some
says
information on the nose, though.
It just says that. Yeah. So the nose is super classic, high malty
Citrus,
IPA
high malty
with a
IPA.
citrus background. Like you can smell the entire palate almost before you try it. And I haven't tried it yet.
I just took my first sip, and I absolutely love it. Now, not going to pair as well with a cigar as the last beer we had, but boy, do I love this flavor.
It's not what I expected exactly. It's good. The malt profile on it is nice. It's present.
I love Firestone
It
Walker.
has like three phases. Like you have a little malt up front, then you have this kind of hoppy, flowery citrus or hoppy, flowery note, and then it goes into a citrus finish. It's almost grapefruity.
Yes, very much so.
But only on the finish. Like you don't taste that.
You
grapefruit
don't get that up front on the palate at all.
It's more floral up front. It's really, really different.
Very interesting because you're right. The finish is almost malty.
It's it starts off and then it comes back with a grapefruit aftertaste.
Yeah, I like it.
Interesting.
It's also very refreshing for a 6.0. Very refreshing.
Bitter. It's bitter.
Yes, but bitter in a good way.
Like bitter in a grapefruity kind of way.
Remember the first time you had an ESB? That's such a bitter beer, and it's so delicious. If you get
The first time I had an ESB was at the Draft House. It was the tap, the brewery tap downtown.
Oh yes,
Right around the corner from the old Urban Art Bar. And they had they were one of the early in Houston, one of the early bars that had.
I loved that place.
That had
so they had just this wall covered with taps.
Yeah, and if you were going in, then we're talking about like mid '90s. You go in there.
This is before the craft beer thing was a big deal.
Right, you'd go in there, and if you were looking for a Bud Light or a Miller Lite, you were going to be sad because they had all kinds. They had all the Fullers and all the different stuff like that on tap that you would never find anywhere else. It was so interesting. The first time I ever had an ESB was there, and it was an incredible experience. I was like, this is so different.
I like it. Yeah, I miss that place.
This right here, this is a nice IPA. This is a classic over hopped kind of citrusy IPA on the finish, but it also has that malt in the front, so it's
I dig it. Firestone Walker, they do a lot of experimental stuff, but they don't do a lot of stuff that's so weird that you're going, I don't know what they were even going for here. You know what I mean?
I'll buy Firestone Walker on the name alone just because they're always quality. Their 805 is such a great go-to.
Something I used to really hold dear to my heart with Stone.
Yeah.
Like it's Stone, I'll try it, you know?
Damn it, Stone.
I know. Just personally, I support your right to do it, but just personally, I'm kind of bummed. So I'm going to take my
You broke my heart, Frito. I mean, Stone.
take my broken heart and take a little break, and we'll be right back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Still to come, by the way. What are we going to tell you about the 10 things every cigar smoker should know? You'll find out next. Plus, drinking news is on the way. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the program that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. My name is Cruz. Ian is our esteemed and illustrious co-host. We got Doug on the wheels of steel, and Adam is our producer in the sky, who takes care of putting everything together once it's all done. Mary books the show. Everybody does wonderful things, and we are glad to have this program coming to you as we get real close to episode number 300.
Is getting super close.
Yes, I'm getting super close, so we're excited about that. So, Cigar Aficionado, which is probably the best known of the cigar magazines, although I think my personal favorite is Cigar Snob. I like
Cigar Snob is really nice, yeah.
But Cigar Aficionado released an interesting article recently. 10 things that every cigar smoker should know. From seed to shelf, they say, from filler to binder to wrapper. These are the 10 things every cigar aficionado needs to know when cutting, lighting, and smoking your favorite cigar. So they say in this list, and I thought we'd go through this and see if you agree or disagree.
All right.
They say in this list, it's by no means a 10 commandments of cigar smoking. It's more of just a basic look and address of pertinent issues and highlighting some of the aspects that make the premium cigar industry unique, along with some useful tips to enhance your smoking experience. So, number one on their list is that cigars are a natural and artisanal product. Buzzwords like natural and artisanal are overused and abused in today's discussions, but premium handmade cigars have truly earned the right to flaunt this as credentials. They are made of one thing and one thing only: tobacco.
Yep.
Pure, unadulterated tobacco. There's no paper involved. There's no filter involved. It's just tobacco, and not a single leaf is chemically treated or artificially altered for taste. Everything from flavor to color is all achieved through natural means, and that is part of the cigar's inherent beauty. And they point out that, in fact, very few consumable products are this natural.
Right.
Very few. Even if you go with other smokable items, cigarettes or other things, there's a natural quality to the way cigars are made that is just amazing. On the craft side, rolling the perfect handmade cigar is an artisanal skill and one that it can take many years to master. Blending tobacco is as much art as it is science.
That's crazy.
And because tobacco is subject to the whims of nature, the blender has to be able to work effectively with an ingredient that can change from year to year due to crop variations. So it's really like wine. They say some vintages are better than others, but cigar makers will do everything in their power to ensure that the product is consistent regardless. Now, number 2 on their list is 200 pairs of hands. It is often said that 200 pairs of hands touch your cigar before it makes it to your humidor. Geez, I hope they wash their hands. Some claim the number is even higher. Suffice to say, every time you light up a cigar, many people with many different skills all contributed to bring you the ultimate handmade product. And we talked about this, you and I, when we were in Honduras and got to witness things firsthand at the Aladino fields and factory.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
I can't believe you can buy one of these things for, $8.
Right.
After as many people have had to be involved in its production, its cultivation, all of that. I mean, there's so many steps involved. So, 200 pairs of hands. I totally get it. Totally get it. Tobacco Number 3, tobacco undergoes fermentation. Fermentation's common to producers of wine and spirits, defined as a process that converts sugars and organic material to alcohol, often with the use of yeast. In the tobacco industry, it's more of a microbial fermentation,
Right.
one that breaks down the leaf organically through the use of water, pressure, and oxygen. No alcohol is produced in tobacco fermentation, but the process does release heat as it changes the chemical composition and physical traits of the leaf through humidity and oxidation. You remember how warm some of those buildings were that we went in?
Yeah, when you were
where
in
the
there with
tobacco
all
was
the
fermenting?
colognes
Yeah,
around.
it was really cool. It was something that, I don't know, if you're a real cigar fan, you really should schedule a trip where they're offering tours of one of your favorite cigar companies, factories, because it is fascinating to watch and learn. I earn so much more respect for the art and science of what they do from seeing it firsthand like that. So, tobacco undergoes fermentation for one simple reason, by the way. It makes the tobacco taste better. And so it's the fermentation process that allows the flavor and smell of tobacco to be affected, makes it less astringent, and reduces bitterness while bringing out its more floral, nutty, and sweeter aspects, the
Right.
kind of things that we talk about,
Yes.
picking up these notes when we're smoking a cigar. Number 4 is that aging is important. These are all basic tenets of cigars, but it's kind of interesting to look at them in this sort of a way in a list like this. Aging tobacco plays a vital role both before and after the cigar is made. Not only is the fresh leaf aged before it's rolled into a cigar, so you got tobacco, you age it, then you roll it, but then a newly completed cigar in most cases is sent to an aging room where the tobaccos marry and the humidity levels of the cigar can stabilize. Tobacco leaves are aged after fermentation, and during aging, the leaves are packed up in these tight parcels, these bales. And you remember we saw those hanging in these barns, and they undergo a slow, steady breakdown of carotenoids, which helps to bring out the desirable properties in the tobacco. Who figured all this out? You know,
It's a long process.
it really is. And you think about, well, the ancient Native Americans or whatever took the tobacco and rolled it up and smoked it in a pipe, but it wasn't quite that simple. There's some aging and fermentation that had to go on first before it made any sense. You take a raw tobacco leaf and smoke it in a pipe, it's not going to be that good.
Yeah, and you have to dry the leaf, but you can't dry it to the point of crispy dry.
Right.
You have to keep a measure of humidity in it. There's a lot that goes into that.
There is a tertiary aging as well, Cigar Aficionado points out, and that's done by the consumer. Once the cigars are boxed up and sent to the shops, the consumer might wish to age them even longer, similar to aging wine.
Right.
It helps to further dissipate any acidity in the tobacco and allows its mellower, more nuanced personality to come through. So this is what someone means when you hear someone say, that cigar could really benefit from some time in the humidor.
Right, or this cigar tastes a little bit young.
Right.
You know, it
and
hasn't
sometimes
been aged as much as
sometimes
you think it should.
that kind of a cigar, leave it in the humidor for 6 months, it's going to be
It
perfect.
can be, it can be real good.
Absolutely. So, understanding the anatomy of a cigar is important. A cigar is made up, this is number 5 on the list. Cigar is made up of 3 major parts: wrapper, binder, and filler. And these work together to form a smoking system and a singular organism called the cigar. The wrapper is the visible outer leaf. It's also the most expensive component in the cigar, as these leaves need to be pristine in appearance as well as flavorful. If the leaf's too veiny or rough in texture or has any blemishes, it'll be disqualified.
Watching them sort the tobacco leaves for the wrappers and the binders and the fillers, that kind of
Right,
stuff.
and they could tell by looking at it if it's
mean,
good enough to be a wrapper leaf or if it needs to go into the filler. If a leaf is too veiny or rough or has blemishes, they say it'll no longer be categorized as wrapper. It may still be used, but
And it might still be a great piece of tobacco. It just means it's not going to be the outer wrap.
the binder is like a wrapper leaf that didn't quite make the cut.
Right.
Maybe it's not as pretty. Maybe it's not quite as perfect as the outer wrapper, but it's often the same tobacco, just maybe not as smooth in appearance. It doesn't have to be because you're not gonna see it.
Aesthetically, it's an interior piece.
Binder is the leaf of tobacco directly underneath the wrapper, holding the filler tobacco in place, hence the name. Combustion of the binder is critical, as a good burning binder will often help the filler burn more evenly, especially if the filler contains more oily tobaccos, like we talked about earlier in the show, that don't burn as easy. Fillers where the cigar maker can be most creative, though, because there they can combine different types of tobacco from various countries or several different primings of tobacco for desired flavor and strength and complexity. And as with the wrapper and binder, these are long filler tobaccos that are put into place to burn slowly, yet offer a fine aromatic experience. So, pretty cool.
So when we talk about long filler, just to make sure everyone out there knows, because we don't talk that much about these things. We talk about long fill or short fill on tobacco. Long fill is using tobacco leaves.
Right. Tobacco leaves that are
still intact.
still intact and are ideally at least as long as the cigar.
Right. That's a long filler. That means your tobacco, those are the premium tobacco leaves.
So you would take that leaf, you would fold it into itself and wrap it into the filler.
Correct.
The binder would go around that, and then
this
and
is
then
not like most people are at least cognizant of what a cigarette is made of. When you break a cigarette open, you have all that fine little tobacco that just falls apart because it's all chopped up and diced up into fine little bits.
Right.
That's more like what we call, and not even that fine, but that's more like what we call a short fill. A short fill is like all the little stuff that you cut off of that long filler.
Right. Basically, the short fill is the remains, the scraps that remain after. It's kind of like if you're sewing and you're cutting the main fabric that you need for your material to make a shirt or a dress or whatever, and you make that, and then you took the scraps, and my mom used to do this, make a quilt.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So a short filler cigar is like taking those scraps and putting them to use
rather
than throwing them away. And they can be quite good.
There's some fine short fill tobacco cigars out there, like the Fritas or the I can't think of all the Papas Fritas, and there's a couple other ones like that are short fill tobacco, but they're still good.
Yeah, they're good. They have a tendency to be flaky or ash because you're not dealing with
and they burn
as long as
faster.
a leaf, and they burn faster, but they can still be quite flavorful because it's still good quality tobacco that was being used in whatever it was being used in. Handmade cigars don't come ready to smoke, and that's why the sixth item on the list is cut and light like a pro. You must cut the head of the cigar and then light it. There are obviously very different types of lighters and cutters. They're all open to preference. Some basic rules are universal. For example, cutting too much off the top of the cigar is a no-no. And if you want to ask what's too much, it's if you cut off enough that the wrapper of the cigar unravels after you've lopped off the top. Then you cut down too far. Normally, there's a slight taper at the head of the cigar, which is referred to as the shoulder. Ideally, you don't want to cut below the shoulder line.
Just behind the shoulder, so to speak.
Right.
Like just before the shoulder, depending on which way you're looking at. An easy way to do that, by the way, if you have a cigar cutter, and there's some cigar cutters that have the guard on the back.
You got a back on them.
You actually can't stick your cigar in there too far. But a way to do that, if you just have a cigar cutter and you're a little afraid, because I have friends who, like, they don't smoke cigars that often, say, like, you cut it. I'm like, look, check it out. Put the cigar standing straight up on the table in the cutter, and then snap the cutter while it's on the table. That will be almost perfect every time.
That works very, very well.
You just lay your cutter on the table.
Cutting off too much, of course, defeats the purpose. And it's really important not to cut off too much because of what we said initially, which is it will unravel. It'll make the whole smoking experience very frustrating. Right. Lighting should be done delicately, similar to the way you might toast a marshmallow. A lot of people get really aggressive when they light the cigar. They take the big torch and it's like it's a fire hose.
The fire itself shouldn't actually touch the cigar.
In a perfect world, that's right. It should be minimal direct contact. You want too much direct contact of the flame to the tobacco, and your cigar might end up tasting like pure char because you're just charring it.
Well, and one of the differences, if you light it, say for instance, you know how like when people light a cigarette, they put it directly in their mouth, and they fire the end while they're puffing. Okay, and there's no anything about it. Well, with a cigar, if you toast the end, if you lightly warm the end, basically you're just warming it. It might turn a little dark. That's okay, but you're warming the end. And then you light it, and you're lighting it by puffing above the flame. You're not actually touching the flame to it. And you're turning while you do it. You will find that you will have a nice, even light. Now, if you just take a cigar, stick it in your mouth, and you apply the flame directly to it and start lighting it, you a lot of times will get an uneven burn.
That's right.
like right off the bat.
One of the things that they point out in this article is, and they do have videos, by the way, for how to cut a cigar and how to light a cigar
Nice.
on the Cigar Aficionado website, which you might want to take a look at. But they say, particularly when using the powerful torch lighters, try not to light in your cigar in windy conditions. Try to find a place where there's a break from the wind, and the reason is you'll have a tendency to overcompensate with the lighter because it can not only, if it's not a torch lighter, you may have trouble lighting it at all because it may keep getting blown out. You're going to burn your thumb, yeah. But if it is a torch lighter, you may overcompensate by toasting the cigar too much because of the windy conditions and it taking a little longer to light. Number 7 on the list, smoke cool and slow. Some cigar smokers puff too often. That's a mistake for a few reasons. They say philosophically, a cigar is about enjoyment and savoring the moment. Smoking fast runs kind of counterintuitive to that. Take your time and slow down, but there's a more concrete reason not to smoke too fast as well. Hyper-frequent puffing will inevitably overheat your cigar, and that can cause it to become bitter. So often that bitterness is not something you can reverse too. So a perfectly constructed cigar is made to burn slow and cool in order to impart flavor in a steady progression, and that's the way you want to do it. Number 8 on the list, choose your cigar wisely. It's important to know something about the blend before choosing a cigar. This helps you ensure you don't choose a smoke that's too strong or too mild for you, and you don't have to know every last tobacco component to make an informed choice. But you should have a basic idea of the cigar's strength level before you decide to buy it and see if that is going to work for your particular palate. Most smokers know if they want a strong or a medium or a mild cigar. I can tell you my sweet spot is medium to full.
Yeah.
Right in between the two, that's where I like it the best. Nice.
I used to have myself convinced that I like mild to medium. And what I found myself gravitating towards was the fuller flavored cigars. And it took me a while to even admit to myself, oh, I really like the ones with the bigger flavor overall.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know, and once I realized that, then I started kind of narrowing down, like when I go into a shop, like right now, if I walk into a shop and someone's like, what do you like? Oh, I like big, I like Maduro, I like sweet, I like peppery. And I didn't used to, when I first started this show, I used to say I don't like cigars that are very peppery, but I think my palate's changed.
And
I've just
that
learned,
happens. That absolutely happens because I know there were cigars that were, I felt like perfectly in the zone for my palate 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, it's not that I don't like those cigars anymore, but there are other cigars I like better that are, maybe a little bit stronger or maybe they're a little bit more complex or whatever. So your palate does change. Number 9 on the list is that Cubans aren't always the best. As long as people smoke premium cigars, this will be, the proud debate about Cubans versus
Well, you can only get good beer
non-Cubans,
in Europe and Germany, too.
Well, that's
It's
a
the
perfect
exact
analogy.
same myth.
It's absolutely
It's
right.
the exact same myth.
Absolutely right. Lifelong Habanophiles, they say, will always preach inimitable Cuban taste, while most universal cigar fans will tell you Cubans are overrated. Cigar Aficionado says it's their opinion that Cuban cigars are great, but they are not alone in their greatness.
I met a guy at a bar that told me one time, I only smoke Cuban cigars.
Yeah.
Like, I won't even smoke all that other trash. And I laughed. And I didn't talk to him.
that's
I mean, it was literally
because
like,
you're not talking that guy.
and it was awkward for me to just laugh and walk away. It was like, what? I was just like, okay, buddy.
Cigar Aficionado points out that the top-tier smokes of the major cigar-producing nations are all outstanding in their own way, and that's evident in their tasting sections and in their top 25 Cigar of the Year awards. Sometimes a Cuban cigar wins, sometimes it doesn't. The most recent cigar that topped their top 25 of the year was a Dominican cigar.
Yeah.
So it does definitely happen. And finally, number 10, and I was really proud when I saw this, by the way. Number 10 is price versus quality. Sound
Does it
familiar?
say that?
It actually says that right here in the magazine. Price v. quality.
Stolen it from us.
Price isn't always an indicator of quality. A
Yeah.
cigar that costs $30 isn't always more enjoyable than a cigar that costs $10, and certainly is not likely to be 3 times more enjoyable than a cigar that costs $10. Inexpensive cigars sometimes score better than the pricey ones in their blind tastings, and at the same time, they say it's important to understand that the best materials, finest construction, and most acute quality control does cost money.
Yes.
And we said it before, we don't know how that many hands can touch a cigar and they can sell it for $6 or $7 or $8.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So some crops are better than others with tobacco quality too. But sometimes cigars are just expensive for arbitrary or gimmicky reasons that don't have anything to do with quality.
Well, I love that
or
they
availability.
put that in there, because the truth is, if you buy a $30 cigar and it's as good as a $30 cigar should be, that's a good cigar.
Absolutely.
And
you're 100% right.
And I'll say it. I've said it many times. That Padron 45th anniversary is a beast. You put that up against any Cuban in my book.
Yeah, and it'll definitely play.
100%. 100%. And then on top of that, a lot of the cigars that we review, we try to find that sweet spot that's like right in that $6 to $10 range.
Right. Well,
and we
most of the
great
cigars I smoke
Yeah.
are 6 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I can't afford to smoke a Plasencia every day.
Absolutely.
Like
I'll enjoy one every once in a while.
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah,
And they're amazing. That's a $20 cigar. That
absolutely.
Almafuerte
Yeah.
is $20 worth every bit of that
It's
$20.
wonderful, but yes.
But I can't smoke that every day. That's a special occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got a what could be a special rum here. It is estate distilled. It is Worthy Park, established in 1670 as a single estate reserve Jamaican rum. And despite the fact that Worthy Park was established in 1670, I'd never heard of them until several days ago when I saw this bottle on the shelf. It's not one I've read about. It's not one I've seen reviewed. I'm not saying it hasn't been. It's just not one I was familiar with at all. So I thought this would be very interesting
Well,
for us to
established in
try.
1670, the Worthy Park Estate is a true single estate product. Thousands of acres of sugarcane are the source of molasses through distillation, 100% copper pot still. An authentic traditional Jamaican rum in once used American white oak, ex-bourbon barrels between 6 and 10 years. This authentic Jamaican rum showcases unique complexity and distinctive taste of Worthy Park rums. I don't know anything about them.
You mentioned
a cool little picture on
earlier
it,
in
though.
the show that looks very much like a
It looks like a whiskey
bottle of whiskey.
doesn't it?
Yeah, just the way it's
Just the whole
the label
presentation.
shaped and all of that. So very interesting. Have you given this the
I have
nose
not.
yet?
I've given it the nose. I haven't given it the taste yet, but I want to say banana peel right on the nose.
Banana peel, but you know what else? It doesn't strike me as a rum off just the nose. It feels like it's peppery. It's like peppery and banana.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a little rum behind it.
Where I'm usually looking for more of that rum. I was expecting the sort of rubber funk because it's
the
Jamaican
rum
rum.
spice kind of thing.
But
It's very interesting right on the nose. I don't know exactly what's going on. It smells a little bit hot too, like alcohol hot.
yes, and it is. Even though I think it's only like 40, maybe 45 proof. 45% rather.
Yeah, 45%. That's right. Ooh, it is a little hot.
Yeah, it's peppery.
It's very peppery and hot. And when I say hot, I mean alcohol kind of hits you like a.
And it drinks more like a whiskey than a rum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for usually in rums. I'm looking for more of that
It's a very
maple quality, that caramel.
Yeah, it has a very
There's some of that
watery
there.
mouthfeel to it too. Mm-hmm. Like a very thin mouthfeel to it. Although it sits on the cup very oily, like the legs on the cup are. Like I don't know if you can see that from this distance to the camera, but it's very oily. Interesting.
I don't dislike it, but it's definitely not joining my family of favorites.
Is that a bottle of water?
It is.
Can I put a drop in here?
Please do.
I'm super interested to see what happens because
If
like,
it's a whiskey
frankly-
and you put a drop in it, it would make a
frankly,
difference.
this is a little. First off, right now, like what I'm tasting, it's a little hot.
Little
It's a
in your
little
face.
watery feeling, and it's not entirely super pleasant.
That was a very casual way to say you're not.
I'm not really
digging
digging it. Not really. There's a little bit like I still haven't tried it with the water yet, but there's a little of that rubber funk in the back, but it's not.
Well,
it's almost chemical-y.
You get a little more of it now with the water in it.
Okay, so there's almost like a little vanilla going on now. It's less banana, and I'm interested. To see
It does quiet the pepper a little bit with a bit of water.
I'm gonna have to chalk this up to not a fan of this rum.
I'm kind of with you. It's not that I wouldn't drink it, but I don't think it stands up. And this is about a $65 bottle of rum, so I don't think it stands up to a $23 Isle of Fiji.
Oh, not even close. Not even close. Huh?
But it's interesting.
Maybe this has its place. Maybe I don't know. I'm not. I wouldn't reach back for it. First off, there's so many rums that we've tried that don't have that heat profile, that alcohol heat profile. This just tastes unrefined to me. If that makes sense. Does that?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Now, I will say, I've certainly had some of the higher alcohol content rums that do kind of reach out and punch you a little bit.
Right.
But I think I like their flavor a little more than I like this one.
I think the problem with this one is the heat's distracting to the flavor. Whereas some of the ones, like I've had that barrel rum that I have that's 130%.
Yeah.
And the heat is bigger than this.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
But the flavor is also tons bigger than this. So I don't know. I don't think I'm a fan of this particular one.
Yeah. I'm gonna say no myself. Again, not that I wouldn't drink it, but I wouldn't go back for another bottle.
It's not undrinkable, but price to quality is $70 or $65.
Yeah, $65, yeah.
Ooh. That's a tough one. It looks amazing, though. Like the bottle looks killer.
Looks good sitting on the shelf, doesn't it? And it came in a square box that was pretty impressive itself. Made it look like, a really sort of top shelf type of type of thing. But yeah, so here's the thing that I will tell you. If I didn't know anything about this and it wasn't in as fancy looking a bottle, and you told me that this was like rum, I wouldn't necessarily not believe you. You know what I mean?
It doesn't have a bad funk like some of the well rums can have.
Yeah.
But I get where you're going with this. The mineral water.
Put it this way: I've had rum that was about $18 to $20 a bottle that I thought was just as good as this.
Oh, at least, yeah.
And if you want to talk something like Isle of Fiji, which I think is $23.99 at specs, it's like
it blows us out of the
100
water.
times better.
It blows us out of the water.
Yeah.
Blows us absolutely. If you put this and that next to each other and said, taste which one and see which one costs $70.
Right, you guess the Isle of Fiji.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting, and
it's not a refined taste. If you like not refined taste and maybe a little young tasting, and the plus side is the mineral water part of it is kind of pleasant.
And by the way, it is better with a drop of water. It definitely is better.
Yeah, because the pepper, you're right, it tamps down the pepper a lot. That's enough of that.
All right. Well, fortunately, sir, this will not be our final drink, because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, not only will we be bringing you drinking news, but we're going to be tasting something that I have a feeling you got a good shot at being a fan of. It's the Prairie Artisan Ales Double Vanilla Noir.
I'm for it.
Yeah, I was going to say right out of the bag, I'm thinking you're going to like this. It is a barrel-aged stout, and it uses 2 different kinds of vanilla. So we'll get into that, and we'll get into a little drinking news. Remember our drinking news teaser headline, "This in-flight entertainment really sucks." We'll be right back.
Hey.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. You are listening to the radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Those are good things.
Good. They are good things. Ian and I in the studio today, but we do have a special guest coming in next week. We mentioned Sean Anger with Fox and Seeker. So we're excited to have him back and enjoy some good stuff with him. I realize that as I was trying to get organized on my iPad, because I generally use the iPad when we're on the show here, and it's just easier. I realized that I now, in my notes section on my iPad, I have a whole folder for drinking news, and that's kind of cool. I have a tendency to like it, because drinking news, after all, is what we love to bring you guys. The stories are varied. Sometimes they're about drinking, sometimes they're not, but they are all best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said, I had to take my gator to the vet. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Chujo. So here at Drinking News, we will admit it. As we've gotten a little bit older, and yes, a little bit larger, flying commercial airlines has become more and more of an ordeal. As Americans in general have gotten bigger frames, bigger waistlines, etc., the greedy bastards who run the airlines have gotten, well, greedier. They now cram as many seats as they can possibly fit into the coach section, charge outrageous prices if you want to sit in a more comfortable first-class seat, and don't get me started on the paying for your bags thing, which most of them adopted as a temporary measure in the early 2000s due to, at that time, rising fuel costs, and then kept those bogus charges in place even when prices went down. And, of course, now that fuel costs are back up again, they're already doing that, so they got to come up with some other way, so they're just raising prices on the tickets themselves. So you combine all of that with the fact that the last flight I took was showing the Tom and Jerry movie, which may have done more to keep people out of theaters than COVID-19, which I believe this is irrefutable evidence that the airlines hate us. I do. They really, really hate us. Thanks, Sally Field. So it's no surprise that passengers these days can tend to get a little restless while on a flight. Yeah. But a Washington State man took this a little further than most do, and he's now facing up to 20 years in prison after he admitted jumping over a beverage cart and taking off his clothes aboard an American Airlines flight, which had to be diverted. Adam Alexander Williams, a 33-year-old of Auburn, Washington, pleaded guilty last week to interference with flight members and attendants more than 5 months after causing a flight from Seattle to Charlotte, North Carolina, to land in Billings, Montana. Williams will also be sentenced as a later date. In addition to prison time, he also faces a $25,000 fine and 3 years of supervised release. According to court documents, Williams was traveling to North Carolina last January when his behavior turned erratic and escalated in mid-flight. At one point, he yelled out to no one in particular, "Where is Jamie Sanders?" He later jumped over passengers in his row and onto a beverage cart in the aisle. As he came off the cart, he almost landed on a flight attendant and pushed her into his seat, knocking drinks and cups everywhere to the ground. The record stated he then began to run down the aisle of the aircraft. Okay, let's stop for just a minute and try to figure out the Jamie Sanders thing.
I don't even know.
All right. According to IMDb, there's a Jamie Sanders who apparently stars in something called The Vidiots and reportedly wrote a somewhat famous poem about growing up with Tourette's syndrome that had a reading of it carried on a number of online news outlets, so could have been him. Okay. There's also an author named Jamie Sanders who wrote and illustrated what looks like a lovely book called Harvey the Hippo.
All right.
I suppose that could be the Jamie Sanders in question. And there's a Jamie Sanders, this one female, who appears to be a plus-sized model and fashion influencer on Instagram who lists herself as a French fry connoisseur. Could be.
Okay.
Well, whichever Jamie Sanders he was looking for was apparently not on the flight, and his behavior as he began running wildly down the aisle of the plane was said to have startled the flight attendant, who appeared, quote, distressed and traumatized, and prosecutor says another cabin crew member managed to calm Williams down and escort him back to his seat. And then about 10 minutes later, Williams began to act up again and started screaming obscenities at the top of his voice, according to the documents. Flight attendants then placed several U.S. Marines, who happened to be on the flight, into the seats around him as a precaution. You know when they sit the Marines around you,
Right.
you've stepped over the line, right? But a short time later, Williams stood up and began screaming and taking off his clothes.
Oh, mercy.
At that point, the aircraft's captain turned the plane around and landed in Billings so that Williams could be removed from the plane. So thanks to this dumbass, people had to actually spend time in Billings, Montana, which was described in a list of attributes by the people who live there as having, and I quote, high crime, bad drivers, unfriendly people, and one item on the list in particular that caught my eye, which just says, the smell.
And that's the good side.
Yeah. Williams has been released from custody pending his sentencing. Look, Mr. Williams, I get that flying is no bed of roses these days. And I'm sure that plus-sized Instagram influencer Jamie Sanders would have been very interesting to sit next to for the duration of your flight, but you need to get a grip. It's bad enough that your fellow passengers have to be subjected to the unpleasant experience of an American Airlines flight, but you certainly don't need to add to their discomfort by dancing up and down the aisle with your junk flopping around. And besides, as we seem to say often here on Drinking News, think of the children.
What about the children?
Seeing something like that can scar a kid for life. And then one day when they're all grown up, they may just act out on an airplane too, maybe doing something really awful, like trying to get everybody to do the wave or the Macarena, or performing their best impression of Cardi B, or maybe just passing really terrible gas and trying to blame it on the people around them. I think I'd probably take that torture over the Cardi B thing. Anyway, reporting from seat 13B, in the middle, where I'm starting to get really claustrophobic, and the in-flight film is The Emoji Movie. Dear God, someone help me. My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Okay, it wasn't our best drinking news, but still.
Man.
Guy running up and down the aisle naked on the plane.
You know, so I remember when we were kids.
Yeah.
Like, were you like your parents, like if you flew somewhere, you actually kind of got dressed up?
Oh,
know?
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not like that on
was
planes
like a
anymore.
thing, right?
Yeah. You dress
now,
up a little bit. You don't wear a suit and tie, but...
No, nowadays.
Yeah.
When I go onto a flight, I've got one pair of shorts that I wear that have a plastic, a nylon belt with a plastic buckle. I wear flip-flops.
Yeah.
And I wear a T-shirt.
Well, it used to be a
So,
thing.
like,
It's not really a thing anymore.
So once I empty my pockets,
Yeah.
like everything's easy to assemble afterwards. Because
Yeah.
Because you're gonna go, they're gonna take your shoes off. You gotta take your shoes off. You're gonna take this off. You're gonna do that. You gotta take your belt off. Then your pants are falling down. Oh my gosh! It's like, you know what? So I have one pair of shorts that I fly on, wearing with a plastic buckle, like kind of nylon belt sewed into it, and I don't care if I look bad, but I get through that line at least fast as I can.
It's just flying
It's
is
terrible.
just such a
Like,
terrible experience right
You
now.
know, my favorite part too is, it's like it's for your safety. Like you can't bring this much of a liquid, toss it in the garbage. You can't bring that much of a liquid. You can make a bomb out of this, toss it in the garbage with all the other stuff you can make a bomb out of. Like it's just unbelievable the theater
Oh, yeah.
that goes into making you think that they're doing something to make you safer.
Yeah.
Time and time again.
Can you imagine if you wanted to be like a young radical bomb maker? All you need to do is go dumpster diving at the airport. Apparently,
everything makes a bomb.
Yeah, apparently all of the things you would need would be in the dumpster.
The theater of security in the airport is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's insane.
And you have to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have no choice.
And they act like it's for real.
Yeah, no choice.
And everyone's just supposed to accept this. It's unbelievable.
I have a brother-in-law who is in the airport security business, and you should hear the stories he tells. It's just,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's just.
And there's idiots too. Like if you're on the other side of it, stop being an idiot.
Yeah.
Arguing with the person who's doing their job,
right,
doesn't really help you.
Yep. That's absolutely right. I always, and in fact, lately, anytime I'm frustrated with the company's policies or whatever, I actually try to win over the person I'm talking to because they can't help. They can't change it.
Yeah, they're generally
they're doing their job. But how do I get that person to pass this complaint on so that somebody that could do something about it actually would hear it.
Right. Instead of them going, that guy was just an ass.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And you can just be an ass, but you're not getting anywhere with that.
Right. Nothing's gonna come of it. That's right. Except your blood pressure is gonna go up, and you're gonna be more frustrated.
And then you've just let the airline rule your day.
Yeah, that's right. And that sucks.
You know what? I don't
That
have time
sucks.
for that.
It absolutely does.
I just don't have time for like letting other things affect my day.
I like the way you think. You know what could affect my day though? Is some vanilla noir, some double vanilla noir. Now, I want to tell you that I recently my wife got us tickets to go to the Alley Theater recently and see a musical called Noir. And the idea is that it's a musical that was based on, the old detective noir type of things. And I felt like it didn't quite deliver. I love the idea of it. I felt like it didn't quite deliver what I was hoping for. But then the more I've thought about it afterwards, I was like, I really did kind of enjoy that. And I really do love supporting the theater. So go see it and check it out. But in the meantime, I love all things noir. I love the old, black and white detective show vibe. I love the music that goes along with noir, the smoky saxophone and all that kind of stuff. So the idea of this Prairie Artisan Ales double vanilla noir, and it's got a perfect. And what I love about this illustration, and I'll try to show it to the right camera here. Ian, maybe you can show it to that one. It looks like she's out of focus.
Yeah,
the way they've drawn her.
It's the
right?
hot girl from behind, and she's looking kind of over her shoulder.
Yeah,
and it's a
but
little
it looks like
double
she's out of focus. Yeah, double focus, because it's a double vanilla noir. And if you look on the back there, it'll say what vanilla they have used in this beer.
Barrel-aged stout with Madagascar vanilla and Tahitian vanilla.
And boy, is this nice on the nose. Oh, my goodness.
Not a lot of other information. Well, it says right here, it says, according to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects.
I will mention, by the way, as you do that this is a regular 12-ounce bottle, and it's a $15 beer. So this is not you'd expect to pay that for a bomber, but this is not an inexpensive beer.
This is when we need OnStark to tell us what the ABV is on this.
Oh, because it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say anywhere.
Very interesting. Well,
madness.
I can tell you that it's pretty boozy, having just taken a sip.
What's the name of it again?
It is Double Vanilla Noir. Barrel-aged stout with Madagascar vanilla and Tahitian vanilla. Very interesting. I love the bottle. I love the way it's designed. And I got to tell you, the beer, it's boozy, but it's good. Have you had a sip yet?
I have, and it's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Double vanilla noir. Let's see.
I'm a vanilla
beer
guy.
advocate.
I'm a vanilla guy.
13.4%.
13.4. There you go. To me, the greatest ice cream is always vanilla ice cream, but with chocolate syrup.
Vanilla with something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a fan of that myself. Like vanilla ice cream with. If you're getting like the Ben and Jerry's crazy flavors, it's always going to be like vanilla with stuff, like with the
right
cookie dough or
right
with the
exactly
chocolate
But
chunks.
a good vanilla as the base for your ice cream is that's just the way to go, in my opinion. Vanilla, Tahitian vanilla, and Madagascar vanilla. And I will admit I don't know the difference, but
I don't know
they
either.
both sound very
they're
exotic.
very vanilla.
They both sound
This
very
has
exotic.
kind of a dark, fuzzy vanilla kind of flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a bright.
It's not like a
bright
sweet vanilla,
like
yeah.
a super sweet vanilla flavor. It's definitely a little different.
Kind of digging it, I have to say. Kind of digging it.
It's pretty good. I like this. I'm a fan. But Prairie does so many good beers.
They
anyway.
do, and a lot of what they do is sours. And I have to admit, I'm a little burned out on sours right now. Not that I don't like them, but just feels like that's not what I've been in the mood for lately. But I thought it'd be interesting to pick up a Prairie that was not a sour and be able to check it out.
So sours have been popular. Over the last couple of years, they've been coming up pretty steadily, I think, as a very popular style.
Mm-hmm. It's it's been almost an explosion of that, if you think about it, because sours were very rare.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
I remember that.
And
Look at
they're everywhere now.
finding a creek or any of those kind of Petrus, any of those kind of things. Find them anywhere outside of a very well stocked, like big, liquor store was pretty rare.
Yeah. But now you do see them everywhere. But for my money, I'll take this. This is one of my favorite Prairie beers I think I've had.
Yeah, it's delicious. The bourbon flavor in it is
really there.
It's really, really big.
It is very boozy and very. There's a chocolate note to it as well.
But dark, bitter chocolate note. It's less coffee flavored than you would get a lot of stouts.
Yes,
stouts.
For sure. Less coffee, more vanilla, and I kind of like it. So the Rob Report, which we like to go to every time we want to, pretend that we're really rich and we're looking through private jets to buy. The Rob Report has a very interesting article that I stumbled across. 7 refreshing whiskey cocktails that are perfect for summer. So
do they all cost $1,000?
Yes, they do. And they all use, in order to make them with these recipes, you must use bottles of whiskey that start at $750.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. First one they list is the whiskey sour. They say one of whiskey's many natural gifts.
Whiskey sours are great.
Being not necessarily, you don't necessarily think about making refreshing summer cocktails as automatically one of whiskey's natural gifts. But they say, here, if you do this right, you can do it. Whiskey sour is the first one they recommend. 2 ounces of bourbon, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and 1 egg white are all it takes to make their
I've never tried it with the egg white.
Yeah. They say add all ingredients in the shaker tin. Dry shake the ingredients without ice for 5 seconds to whip the egg. Add ice, seal tins, and shake hard for 10 to 12 seconds, and then strain into a coupe or martini glass. It'll come out white at first, and the color will emerge over the course of a minute under a paper-smooth head of foam.
Nice. I never did it with the egg white, but I will tell you, so just for the super lazy person's whiskey sour, Fever Tree makes Fever Tree makes like soda kind of drinks, right? And they're these small bottles that I use for mixers all the time. So one of them they have is called Bitter Lemon. That with a little bit of whiskey. A little bit of whiskey. That's a joke.
Bit of whiskey.
That with some whiskey and then a little maraschino, but get the good maraschino cherry, not the cheap bright red ones. The dark red, gnarly, expensive ones.
Right.
A little bit of that juice in there makes a fantastic cocktail.
They also recommend the mint julep. 2.5 ounces of bourbon, 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup to taste, and 10 to 12 mint leaves. This is not. See, I always thought of mint julep as a much more complicated drink, but that's 3 ingredients.
No, it's not. Yeah, there's not much to it.
They say gently muddle the mint into the simple syrup, add bourbon, and fill with two-thirds of the way of the crushed ice. Stir to chill until a frost forms on the outside, then pack the rest of the cup with ice. Take 2 mint crowns, lightly bruise them with your fingers, and stick them against the inside close to the straw, and enjoy.
Yeah, you get that. You do that last little bit so that you get it on the nose. You get that.
Right.
Like every time you take a sip, you get that mint right in your face. It's really nice.
The next one on the list is the New York Sour. Some unnamed Chicago bartender in the early 1880s had the improbable idea of taking whiskey sour and adding a little red wine to the top and invented something new. So 2 ounces of rye whiskey, 3/4 an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and then 1/2 to 1 ounce of light red wine. You put the rye, lemon juice, and simple syrup in the shaker tin with ice and shake hard for 10 to 12 seconds. Strain over fresh ice in a rocks glass and leave a little clearance at the top of the glass, and then you top with between 1/2 an ounce and 1 ounce of light red wine.
Nice. So like table wine or like yeah, nice.
Your favorite box wine, whatever you got.
Your favorite box, Big Red Truck.
I have purchased many bottles with the big red truck on them. I have. I'm not embarrassed to say. Not in a while, but I have done it.
Big Red Truck.
The Gold Rush whiskey, lemon juice, and honey syrup is a good and important drink. 2 ounces of bourbon, 3/4 ounce lemon juice, 3/4 ounce honey syrup, and 1 grapefruit peel. Taking care to get as little of the white pith as possible. Amaretto Sour comes up as a good whiskey.
That's a good drink.
1.5 ounce amaretto, 3/4 of an ounce cast strength bourbon, ounce of lemon juice, 1/4 ounce simple syrup, and 1 egg white. The Japanese whiskey highball. 1.5 ounces of Japanese whiskey and 4.5 ounces of chilled soda or seltzer water. That's it.
I was going to say, if there's an egg white in this one, I'm giving up on this list.
And then there's the paper plane, which is 3/4 ounce bourbon, 3/4 ounce lemon juice, 3/4 ounce Amaro Nonino, which I'm not sure what
I
that
have
is.
no idea what that is.
Amaro Nonino, and then 3/4 of an ounce of Aperol, Aperol. So I'm not familiar with that.
Aperol, maybe
Aperol,
maybe an
probably.
apricot.
They write
thing.
that the whiskey, the paper plane, is like a whiskey and orange juice that grew up handsome and for whom everything is going right. It's a crowd pleaser, invented by bartender Sam Ross in 2008. Gets its charm from 2 bittersweet Italian liqueurs, even though the resulting cocktail is neither particularly bitter nor sweet. Simple to make, and they claim the best cocktail invented in the last 100 years.
Oh, wow.
So add all ingredients into a cocktail shaker with ice. Shake for 6 to 10 seconds. Strain up into a coupe or cocktail glass, and garnish by hitting play on MIA's 2008 song "Paper Planes." That's how they do it. So there's your drinks for summer, your whiskey drinks for summer, and I hope you enjoyed and can make something out of those. I'm enjoying this
so
beer
good.
very, very much.
That beer's delicious.
And I'll just say this: it tastes expensive. Like when you drink it, you're not sitting here going,
You kind of know.
"Why did I pay $15 for this?" You know,
Nope.
it delivers.
Also, if you were to drip this in between 2 pieces of wood, they would be stuck together forever, which is a solid indicator that I'm probably going to like that beer.
Yeah, think about this over ice cream,
Yeah, oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
or even waffles. Yep, I'm thinking so. Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's not just for breakfast anymore.
Indeed. Well, I really dig it. All right, so we'll take a break. We'll come back and wrap up the show. We have probably a few other things we want to mention real quick, and then we'll be on to promoting next week's show, which is Fox and Seeker, Sean Anger. We're excited about
hell
tasting that bourbon and getting back with you. It's Smoking and Toasting. We will be right back. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. We are so glad you are here and so glad you've stayed through this latter part of the show. We enjoy hanging out with you guys every week, and we miss you when we don't do a show like we did skip last week. So it's really cool to be back with you. I mentioned when I was talking about my cigar that I did my tasting notes on this week, the CAO cigar. I mentioned meeting Tim Osgener back in the 90s. At a Big Smoke that I got a chance to go to in New York. That was back when you could have a Big Smoke in New York. Now they have to have them in Jersey because you can't smoke anywhere in New York. But anyway, Tim Osgener, who was the son of Kano Osgener, who was the sort of founder of CAO Cigars, and then he ran it with his son Tim. He was just this wonderfully passionate guy about cigars, and they sold CAO to Scandinavian Tobacco Group, and haven't heard much from Tim other than him, mentioning wonderful things about his father when Kano passed away several years ago. But he's now announced he's getting back into the cigar industry with a new brand that's bearing his family name. He's about to launch Osgener Family Cigars Bosphorus. It's his first blend in around 12 years and the beginning of what he expects to be several cigars launched under the Osgener name. I still love cigars, he says, and I found I appreciate them more and more. Some of my most satisfying portions of my life were in the cigar business. I love the traditions. He says he's been working on this new project for close to 2 years. So Bosphorus is going to debut in Las Vegas at the PCA Trade Show.
Nice.
4 sizes, all are box pressed. I like the box press and how the flavor travels across your palate, Tim Osgener says. I like how it hits all points of your tongue. The blend is a mix of Ecuadorian and Nicaraguan tobaccos. The wrapper is a dark leaf Ecuador Sumatra, and there are 2 binder leaves, one Ecuadorian Connecticut and the other Nicaraguan Jalapa. And the filler is entirely Nicaraguan, a mix of leaves from all over, including the volcanic island of Ometepe.
Oh,
which
nice.
is that's supposed to be some really, really interesting and really thick, really fertile ground there that grows this very tasty leaf. So looking forward to that. Cigars will be distributed, by the way, by Crowned Heads.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Let's talk about box press for a second.
yeah.
I was in a cigar shop a couple weeks ago, and there was a guy in there that was asking. I can't remember what cigar he was asking about, but he asked specifically for not a box press because he doesn't like them.
Really,
Yeah, how weird is that?
I never heard of anybody saying they don't like a box press.
How can you not like a box press? Very strange.
Yeah,
Box press?
I wonder why.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't get into his brain on. He's just a customer. But I got to tell you, there's something incredibly satisfying about having a box press and then a punch.
Mm-hmm.
Like with a perfect hole and a perfect box press that smokes perfect.
Yeah,
I'm
with you.
That is like that's like a little bit of cigar nirvana right there. You
You're
know?
totally right. You're totally
And a
right.
box press is it's fun to feel. It's fun to like just handle, when you're smoking it. It gives you that just other element of
So basically, the way they
feel.
do box press, it really is as it sounds.
It's
Because
pressed
they use
into
a
the
press,
shape of a box.
right? So they
yeah.
put this essentially round cigar into a press, and then they press it into a box shape.
Right, so it compresses the tobacco.
Right. And you have some box press that are slight, and some that are what they call severely
Some are.
box press.
So like the Oliva Series G box press is like a square
Oh
corner.
yeah, you
like,
can almost cut something with the corner of that cigar.
That thing is as box press as it gets. But then most box presses are a little of a softer box press. But you can have a very soft box press, which is like got corners but a little more rounded.
Right.
It's
Well, I
interesting.
love box
Or you
press
can have
cigars.
something like that CAO flathead, which is like also a severe box
That's
press.
very severe.
Very
Yeah.
severe.
I think my favorite cigar shape of all time is a box press torpedo.
Oh,
with a
let's see.
torpedo tip and a box press.
Perfecto for me, man.
Yeah, but
Solomon, double Solomon,
double
Perfecto.
Solomon, yeah.
I like those fun shapes, man. I like stuff like that.
Well,
I
cigar
love
good.
I love that some of the cigars. You did one a couple weeks ago that was box pressed, and I know Avo and a couple like Avo Synchro and a couple other cigars have they even put it in a square
box pressed,
tin.
yeah, a square tin.
It's pretty awesome.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah, it really is. It's something after you're done with the cigar, you're like, I should keep this, but what would
There's
I
no
use it
reason to
for?
keep it.
Yeah,
You
what
can't
would
put
I
another
use it
cigar
for?
in it.
Yeah.
Because I'll keep the tins sometimes or the tubos.
You can put
sometimes
another
I'll
cigar
put
in,
another
yeah.
cigar so I can pocket it or
Totally,
whatever.
totally. But
Maybe
the
this
square
guy
ones-
that didn't like the box press cigars is the same guy related to the guy that only smokes Cuban.
Oh, this is possible. I suppose.
want to thank you guys for being here for the program. As we mentioned, next week, Sean Anger with Fox and Seeker will join us with
looking
his
forward to that.
brand new bourbon, and he's always been a great guest, and he has something really new for us to dig into for next week. So thank you guys so much. We record our shows earlier in the week now and post them on Thursdays, but we really appreciate you guys continuing to contribute along in the comments section once the shows are posted. It's always fun to see what you guys are thinking and how you're reacting to the show, and we love to go back and comment on your comments whenever we can. So, so it's a lot of fun. Have a great week. Thank you for being here, and my friends, cheers.
Cheers, y'all.